What's up, traders? Welcome to 2024 trading action. Here is the first day. The markets are open for 2024, and it's already started off weird. There's no real other word to describe this type of action here. And what I'm looking at here is just, overall, again, the indices as being, the main guide, right? Is if we're looking to trade any individual names and we're trading those counter to what the overall markets are doing, then we probably got a pretty tough road ahead of us, right? So with that, I'm going to bring over the foregrid and just kind of show you guys some things that I was watching for today, and then also the trade in which I took here. So with this, I had a line in the sand here at 4788.75s for the S&Ps. I had a level at 839.75s here for the Nasdaq. And what I found to be really interesting is that, first thing this morning, Nasdaq is getting sold rather hard. S&Ps are rejecting off 4788.75. So there's two things there to take away. One, S&Ps opened beneath the level. Nasdaq opened above it, which typically is a good thing in terms of looking for longs off of that level. But the S&Ps rejected. Nasdaq was able to get through it. And then we just went right down front run of this level, which ultimately had to come down and test again later on the day. But when you look at this and you see what the Dow was doing at the same moment in time, right, when we're getting this pullback out of the Nasdaq, pullback out of the S&Ps, the Dow's actually strong and it's trying to, maybe trend on the day, which ultimately, it sort of does, right? So my trade on the day was the long off 37,864s here. And we took this up into new highs. The highs of the morning were 929s. We took this up in towards like the 950 area. So it was a pretty decent trade here out of the Dow. And at the same time, I did a small little scalp on the micro Nasdaqs just on this little push right here. So you'll see that there's a divergence arrow on the screen right here. So when this bar, this 5-minute bar actually formed and started pushing lower, this signal came in place. And then a little pro tip, I'll actually include it later in the members area video here for how I entered this trade, what the normal criteria is that you guys might know. I actually used something a little bit different here to kind of get into this trade. Again, I did it with smaller size with a micro contract, which is 1/10 the size of, a normal, NASDAQ contract, right? The MNQ here. And then rode this all the way up into 775s right through there and got out on the before this next drop down into 684s, right? So that was the overall, kind of morning for me. And then I had to end up leaving the desk, but right down here at 10:51, I typed in the chat that this was probably the long opportunity here. We had the S&P's divergence with the signal from here. The Nasdaq had popped down, made one more new low, got to the level. It was actually a 3-tick front run, and then started to bounce. So overall, there was a lot of things, kind of moving and shaking here today, which I thought was, again, rather interesting. But when we look at this kind of across the board at some individual names, this is the part where I'm saying that it gets weird on us, right? Because if we pull this up, you can see, here's where the strength came from for the most part, right? It's a really isolated kind of area of strength. And if we put this up, we look at something like an Amgen, right? This thing was moving today. I mean, this is a nice breakout. Daily chart pretty decent as well. It's new all-time highs. At the same time, we're also getting a really nice move out of Verizon, which has no relation to AMGN here or J&J or any of the kind of healthcare names. Even Moderna was able to participate in this one. And at the same time, when we look at some of the the bellwethers, if you will, of this most recent rally, things like a Netflix, right? This thing ends up down 3.78%. AMD got smacked here, down 6%. AVGO, not quite as bad, right? Only 2.77%. NVIDIA, only 2.73%. But some of these names, right, they're getting hit rather hard, right? Boeing has been a really nice mover, over the past 2 months. And that now finally, had a pretty decent pullback here on the day, 3.41%. So it was a really interesting mix of weakness and strength across a couple different, markets. And one of the things in which I typed in the chat, and I'll leave you guys with this here, that I'm hoping that we see this year is that we start to normalize the markets, and we're not seeing this strength out of the Dow, this weakness out of the Nasdaq, and we're seeing an overall broader markets, all four indices moving together here. So if anybody is listening, that would be my New Year's resolutions for the market, is that we could start to get a little bit of normalcy in terms of how the four indices move together. Now, if it doesn't end up happening, then obviously we'll still continue to play with the information that we're given, and the divergences are coming in super, super clutch right now, given how much of a divergence, if you will, a disparity between the indices we are seeing. And that's only gotten more prevalent over the last like 2-3 months in the last quarter of 2023. And if it's starting off and showing us, any signs of anything here today, we're looking at like a 2% difference here between the Nasdaq and the Dow already to kick off 2024. So anyways, that's what I got here for tonight's free video. Take care, hope it helps, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.